And so with the Dharma Chakra in the background, I would like to do amulet talk once more about the Khun Phaen 15 and previous amulets of Luang Pu Tim, and begin with looking back a while to the year 2014 when Dr. Ajahn Pisek came out in public on TV, on national TV, and very many programs to announce that the Khun Phaen 15 of Luang Pu Tim and earlier amulets of Luang Pu Tim are real. And this caused what we call in this day, what is called in Thai, they called it a tsunami of the amulet world, a tidal wave of movement in the amulet world, which was caused because of the amulet societies at the time, who were, it was actually in the beginning caused by a very small group of people who made a book many years ago, and made a book about the 2517 BE edition, and wrote some paragraphs saying that Luang Pu Tim did not make amulets until he reached the age that the Buddha passed away, which is about 80 years old. And so that Luang Pu Tim began making amulets at age 80, which still gave him plenty of time to make early era amulets, of course. But the truth is, this story was made by a few individuals who got their heads together, and they made a book about it. And then this spread to become the common belief with those Sien Pra, the Pantip and the Tapajant Sien Pra, the amulet societies followed suit in this belief. So we're fooled by it and became just as snobby about it as the people who actually believe that. But the truth is that Luang Pu, since he was a much younger monk, made amulets, yeah, and I myself was a monk, so I can confirm this, and Rusi as well. But and just from having been a monk and having been involved in amulet making myself, I can confirm that there is no way that Luang Pu would wait until he was 80 years old to start making amulets and not make any before that. It's actually impossible in Thailand to get past the laity without almost daily, if not daily, being asked on multiple occasions for Kong Di, something good, Kong, things, Di, good things, yeah, meaning amulets or some powerful magical talisman. And so Luang Pu, of course, had been making them a long time before that. But it became the common popular belief. And so when Dr. Ajahn Pisek came out in the year 2014 to officially announce the reality of the Khun Phaen 15, this tidal wave of disagreement arose because of all of the already established showrooms and supposed experts disbelieved this, and a certain group of people attacked the Khun Phaen 15, saying it was fake, because they were to do with this group of people who had been pushing their own amulets, which I will not criticize 2517 or 2515 BE or other eras of amulets of Luang Pu, although talking about the Khun Phaen 15 in this talk will generate, if you're listening to this, you should be in the Khun Phaen 15 group, because if you're in the 2517 group and you have very staunch beliefs, all you're going to do is comment and make big criticisms, and there'll be people arguing, which I don't want. So if you don't believe in the Khun Phaen 15, and you are a staunch believer in that Luang Pu only ever made Khun Phaen 2517, stop listening now, because this is not for you. This is for those who are interested in the truth and the Khun Phaen 15. So because all the showrooms which came out, which were profiting from the Khun Phaen 2517, who didn't have any Khun Phaen 2515 because they didn't know about it, because they were not from Rayong or Wat Laharn Rai area. Ajahn Dr. Pisek is from there and grew up there. With his father was close devotee of Luang Pu Tim, and he himself always around the temple, and all of his neighbors. And so the critics said that the critics had a lot of power. They were bookmakers, they had showrooms, and they had a monopoly control on the 2517BE Khun Phaen. And when they came out to criticize the 2515BE, at first there was not much dissent or argument against that. And that is because the internet was not yet, in Thailand, people, the common folk were not yet so fluent with it, and with Facebook and stuff, to communicate with each other so the truth could flow out. But now it's 2020 and the truth is out. And would say that the local people, because they did not have the power as individuals or as a group through the internet, they didn't have that yet, and they didn't have any power as individuals, just a local person, farmer, to stand up against people who can get on page 5 of the biggest newspapers and publish books and have showrooms full of amulets that are worth thousands to tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars, talking who sell to movie stars and stuff. They just left it because they knew they received the amulet from Luang Pu, from his hand themselves, yeah, the old people, and so they just didn't bother what they would read in the newspapers or see on the TV about argument, and first just not take any notice, because it's like, I know it's real. Luang Pu gave it to me himself, so what these people are saying is not true. All I will say about the 2517BE is I know there was a 2517 ceremony and edition of amulets, and I've seen the permission paper which Luang Pu Tim signed at the temple for the sponsors to create the edition and have the amulets made, and that there is the Prat Gring Chinapanchon and the Rien Sema coin amulets, the Prat Gring Buddha statue, medicine Buddha statuette. But actually in the list of amulets for permission to make of the 2517BE edition, there is absolutely no mention of Khun Phaen at all. Yeah. So that's one thing, that's the only thing I would say about the 2517 Khun Phaen of Luang Pu Tim, and that I myself have never sought, bought, and do not possess any. But of previous editions, which I will call in all of the different block presses spoken about, the block Tong Leung, the block Lek, the block Mai Takian, the block Min Hin Meet Gon, block Song, Gon Tok Tang, block Song, Lang Tok Tang, block Tong Leung, or block Rag, first block, second block, the shaving stone block press, the wooden block press, the metal block press. I don't want to talk, I'll just call them block Wat, which means any block that's not 2517, made by the temple, not by investors. Yeah, I won't talk about Ajahn Chinapon, about who made the block presses and which block press, because the splitting up of block presses into, like you will see, the block Tong Leung before Tok Tang and after Tok Tang, before being redesigned, splitting it into different categories of block presses, was not done by Luang Pu Tim. And at that time they didn't know or talk about different block presses. It was just the Khun Phaen, and it didn't matter which block press it came from. That was done by Amulet, those who control the Amulets scene on the commercial level, meaning on the sales level, in order to categorize them into more and less valuable and more preferred and less preferred models, but had nothing to do with Lumpur Tim at all. So we just call Block Wat the temple block press. Block presses of the temple, all of them in one. Yeah. And so that's the reason at first why there was no argument. But then the internet, YouTube, Facebook came, and individuals started posting a video of their own one Khun Phaen, like one guy with one Khun Phaen who's a farmer near Wat Laharn Rai can't come out and convince the world that the 2515BE edition is real and it's really true, when he's fighting against powerful people who have high standing in the media, very rich amulet traders from the highest, the 5-star showrooms in Pantip, Ngamongwan and Tapajan, yeah. Couldn't stand up to them. But as individuals started coming out together and started showing their Lumpur Tim and telling their stories, after Ajahn Pisek revealed the truth in 2014, there was a bounce back, a tsunami of anger from those, either those who didn't want to believe because they owned one of the 2517, and a lot of the 2517 sellers came out in anger trying to protect their own professional interests by saying the 2515BE is fake. And this is where a lot of dissent arose at first, which is now completely settled, and those who are or were involved in the 2517BE have almost disappeared completely from the marketplace, apart from a few groups, and the scene, apart from a few groups who are staunchly still hanging on there. Even in Singapore, there are a couple of groups who are avidly attacking and arguing and attacking and insulting people who post the Khun Phaen 15 on YouTube, Facebook, or whatever social network. And actually, people who behave by just attacking and insulting, but do not have any reason, rhyme or reason or theory behind what they are claiming to be true or untrue, are usually not even worth answering, to be quite honest, because they have no argument against the Khun Phaen 2515. And one should follow my visual documentations of Khun Phaen 2515 for the Khun Phaen 15, which I try to record. Some are blurry, as I've been learning to make macro videos, but you should subscribe to my Amulet Talk and Amulet School channels. You should subscribe to that and listen, search on YouTube for Amulet Talk or Amulet School, and you will find or Khun Phaen 15, and you will find many of my videos, so you can study the Muon San, the ingredients of the sacred clay, which is part of learning how to see that the Khun Phaen 15 is obviously so real. Because at a glance from afar, they seem quite, some of them, not all of them, but some of them might seem quite new looking. And when you take them under the eye loop and look at the surface textures of the Muon San clay, be they black powders covered in gold flakes, or painted with bronze, or white powders, or red, or pink, or green, or blue, it doesn't matter if it's made from gayasat rice, puffed rice, or sticky rice, or pumpkin mark, areca nut paste. It doesn't matter. You will see that they are old. We're talking about 40 to 50-year-old and older amulets, because actually Lumpur Tim didn't just make Khun Phaen in 2515. He made Khun Phaen before that as well. Most monks will start making amulets when they reach official amulets and be known by the temple and the devotees as having done so around age 50 or so. but maybe from around age 30 or something, they might actually be making amulets and distributing them to their devotees. Yeah. Somdet Prabhudajanto from Rangsi of Wat Laharn Sitaram is famous for having been handing out lukewarm amulets ever since he was a Samanera, since he was young, like 12 years old, 13 years old, 11 years old, yeah? But you become a Samanera usually about 10 years old. Yeah, so he was already making them from childhood. And Lumpu was making amulets throughout his life as a monk, for sure. And most definitely, at least since he was 50 years old, not 80 years old. So that's 30 years longer than many of the people who started the argument in the first place, which is ended now. And those people have disappeared almost, apart from a few last trailing denialists. And a whole new world opened up because of Dr. Ajahn Pisek opening up the truth in 2014. And so I stopped for a pause then. As the argument came, or what we call the tsunami of the world, the amulet world, was the Khun Phaen 15 came. There was the argument that Lumpu did not begin to make amulets until he was 80 years old. He died at the age of 96 years old in the year 2518 BE, which means he would have started making them in 2502 BE at the age of 80. Well, that gives him plenty of time. That gives him 13 years to make the Khun Phaen 15. And it gives him 8 years time to make the Khun Phaen Songpon Yai of 2510 to 2513 BE. And the very early era, more handmade pressed Khun Phaen, which some people still don't know about, but I do, and hope to be showing soon at some point. Since very early, since even if he didn't begin making amulets till he was 80 years old, that means 2502 BE. So that would mean that there are amulets from Lumpu Tim back to the year 2502. I've heard and read in a book another story that he did not do it until it was his sometime in about 2496, 2497, when he it was the year of his Chinese birth animal. Yeah. And so one shouldn't believe really all of this, because these are stories which you can read, but you cannot really confirm. But what you can confirm is, if you've made amulets, been a monk, and you're 25 years in the amulet world like myself, what I can confirm is that for sure Lumpu didn't do anything like that, because you wouldn't get past the decades of devotees hassling you to give them an amulet. And even monks who don't like to make amulets and want to focus on their practice end up doing it, because it's the only way to calm the storm of people who keep asking you. They won't stop asking you. This is Thailand. If you are English, or you're English speaking in the Western world, or you're Southeast Asian and you understand English and you're listening to this, but none of you in Thailand or Thai, then you should understand. If you're yourself crazy about amulets and listening to this amulet talk and the Khun Phaen, then what do you think Thai Buddhist people are? Yeah, 10 times more so, at least. So I would say this argument, this tidal wave, has now swelled down to an ebb and flow that's just lapping against the edges of some river mouths, but that the Khun Phaen 2515 BE is worthy of study, and I would say a lot of amulets which are called Khun Phaen 2515 were made previously, because Luang Pu will have been pressing and making them along with his assistants constantly ever since he had a Khun Phaen design to make. And the Song Pon Yai goes back as far at least as 2510 BE, the versions I have seen and own. And the early era ones, which are much more, a bit more like the Khun Phaen Bang Krang, they're more like made from earths, and more harder, more like baked. They're actually powder, they're just old, they're very hard and stony. Much curved, more bent from the hand pressing, and so much more rough appearance. These ones, just looking at the Muon San under the eye loop, and this is why I was saying watch videos I make on Khun Phaen 15 to see those close up, because you can see the age of the Muon San to go back to 2515 and 2500, 2502 for sure. And before, in my opinion, some of the Muon San of some of his amulets looks too old to be within that period. So I would say Luang Pu probably started making amulets around the age of 50 years old. If you were wondering what the chanting was that we were listening to just now, that was the Dharmachakra, the first sermon of the Buddha, the turning of the Dharmachakra. And the reason I put it on was, apart from having it as a nice background, was because I'm recording right now and there was some people having a party outside singing songs. And so I wanted to record, and I wanted a background to drown out them singing the songs as I spoke about the Khun Phaen 15. And so, for now, it was not just Luang Pu, the group of the 2517 who financed or supported any amulets of Luang Pu. It was also the soldiers and the military in previous years, such as the military of Rayong province and the military of Jantaburi and of Bangkok, who were devotees of Luang Pu and went in 2510, 2512 and other years to 2514 to make editions for and with Luang Pu Tim. So this is just seriously not true that one small group of people, one small group of devotees / investors who made the 2517B edition are the only people in possession of the only edition that a 95 / nearly 96-year-old monk made, who became one of the most famous monks in history, and who sat in Buddha Abhiseka sessions in 2514, 2512 BE, 2510 BE, and it is recorded that he was sat. It was in the 2500 BE Buddha Abhiseka ceremony, yeah, and the Wat Prasad 2506 BE ceremony was invited to be present to empower amulets, but he himself didn't make them. Well, that's a bit hard to believe, isn't it? In fact, it's not hard, it's impossible to believe. He was already a Master Geji Ajahn with Luang Por Hom of Wat Sak Mak, Luang Por Thap of Wat Nong Gabok, Khun Phaen, who is famous for his Si Phung Keo, green pry oil, yeah? Luang Por Hom for his Singa lions and other amulets, Luang Por Hom of Wat Sak Mak, yeah? And other great Geji Ajahn with Luang Pu Tim, and so if we just look at the Wat Pai Lom 2514 BE edition, which was blessed by Lumpu Tok and Lumpu Tim presiding, along with many other monks, yeah, at Wat Lom in Rayong. And Wat Lom is a temple and a school in Rayong, just about 3 minutes down the road from Wat Laharn Rai, from Lumpu Tim's temple. And Lumpu Tim helped that temple by performing blessings and giving Muan Pong Prai Guman, yeah, along with other Geji Ajan who came, who gave Yawasana Jindamani powders. Lumpu Tok came and gave powders from Wat Plap, and they used famous powders from many other amulets. So in 2514 BE, Lumpu Tim is recorded as having made amulets and blessed them at Wat Lom to help the temple, which means he was a powerful Geji Ajan already. And if he was being asked to come and bless amulets at the temple of Wat Lom in 2514 BE, then for sure he was already established himself as an amulet maker, powerful empowerer of amulets, yeah, of a powerful amulet, magical amulet maker himself. If not, why would he have been invited and asked to to participate in the 2514 Wat Lom edition and earlier editions, such as the 2506 BE Wat Prasad edition, where 247 or something of the top master monks of Thailand were invited. What was he doing there if he was never known to make amulets until he was 80, and the only Khun Phaen he ever made and was in 2517, which is what is argued by the few staunch remaining blinker wearing, meaning they can't think about everything, can just see what's right in front of their face. The people who argue about it, it's absolutely ridiculous, it's absolutely nonsense. And anybody who will criticize or argue the 2517 BE amulet will only have one thing to argue. They will always say, this dot has to be here, this letter has to be angled just like this. On the top right hand side there has to be here, just above the shoulder of the Buddha, there has to be this marking. And that's just like, well, that's something you learn from somebody who told you it has to be like that on every single one, when there are actually lots of block presses and they've been pressed by hand by many different people over many different years. There's no way that any two of them are going to look exactly the same. There are no two Khun Phaen, Pong Prai Guman, or no two Prat Somdet of Wat Rakang or wherever that look the same after 50 years. And even at the moment of pressing, unless it is a modern factory laser pressing or a machine clay tablet, votive tablet pressing, where you have a template with 1,000 per go and an industrial hydraulics to do it with, which is done this day, in this day and age, for some larger editions of amulets, to get them pressed, instead of having people doing it by hand for months and years on end. Because in those days, 2515 BE, actually, to press amulets, if you wanted to press 50,000 Khun Phaen in different kinds of models and colours and Muan San clays, you would probably need 10 to 30 helpers and spend about a year pressing every day until your hand aches. So apart from learning to look at the Muan San and the age and authenticity of the contents of the sacred clay of the powder amulets of Lumpu Tim, you can't do that with his takrut and his coins. But what you can do is look at the natural aging and the way they were made, if they were made in the way of those times. And you can study like I have, but you would need to speak, read and write Thai and hang around in Rayong and hang around with collectors, traders and the local folk, the local devotees of Wat Laharn Rai. You would have to do as I have done and go to the Amulet department of Wat Laharn Rai and sit and talk with the curator and what you would call the guardian, the person in charge of looking after it and its history, and talk with the abbot and ask to see the official temple papers of the documentation of the making of editions, and just talk with them. I think it was like this and it was like this, and that Luang Pu did make the 2515 and that it was this and this, and they sit there and say, yes, that's right, that's true. None of us ever denied that. It's just those 2517BE people in Bangkok who are posting on Facebook and on YouTube, criticizing. And I would end with saying that after all of this tidal wave, which is now I would say is over, and we just have an ocean of the pantheon of amulets of Luang Pu Tim which were lost and forgotten, for the simple reason that there was no internet to connect the people, and each individual in Rayong and the older people who possessed Khun Phaen or Takrut or whatever Pim, early era Pim of Luang Pu Tim, didn't care, really. They just didn't want to argue. That's typical Thai, to say, especially in those days and that generation of people, to say, well, let them say what they want, you know. I can't change the world. I can't get the world to listen to me. I don't have a YouTube channel, they didn't even exist in those days. I don't have a book publishing company and friends in publishing and in TV who can help me to come out and say this is real. But the 2517BE guys do. And there was a 2517BE edition. The coins can be played with, the Pat Green can be played with. Was a Khun Phaen made in 2517? If you honestly ask me, I would say I don't know. But I know it's definitely not in the letter of permission. But just because it's not in the letter of permission doesn't mean that they didn't just press a load of them too. The thing is, in the books that were made all those years ago, they write things like the Prat Siento Rup Muan, the Luang Pu Tim image of Pong Praguman powders, which is Luang Pu Tim sitting in meditation on the front face. There was a large-headed and a small-headed version. They said they only made 199 of each, which is, maybe they did in 2517, I don't know. I don't know, because it's not in the list, and I don't know. But what I do know is that block press and that image existed before 2517, and there was more than 200 of them made. And so because of a small group of people in an age before internet who used publishing and their own power and connections in high society to create a belief and to block the truth about anything that came before they came along to make the edition of the 2517BE edition, which you won't find anybody wearing around Wat Laharn Rai, in Rayong or in Chonburi, really, wearing anywhere around Luang Pu Tim's temple within 100 square kilometers. You won't find anybody wearing a 2517BE Khun Phaen. You might find the odd one, but you will find people wearing the Khun Phaen 15 and earlier amulets, because they're from the area and they grew up there, and so did their forefathers, and they got it off their granddad, who was with Luang Pu when he made it, and stuff like that. So the game is over, boys, to the Bangkokian Monopolists. I would just say the game's not over, because if you really are that good at recognizing and you know your stuff, get out there in the field and find some, like I have, like some traders have, and find your Khun Phaen 15, because since everybody kept them around their necks and they stayed in the background because it was a forgotten amulet that was never argued until the age of the internet brought it up, it means that there are still some available. And so Khun Phaen 15 forever, and all amulets from before that, from Lumpur Tim. And don't forget, there's photographs of him being present and assisting in 2500 BE, 25 years, centuries of Buddhism, 2506 BE, Wat Prasad Bunyawat, great third or fourth greatest ceremony of all Thai Buddhist history, the 2500, or third greatest ceremony in Thai Buddhist history, and the fourth greatest ceremony in Thai Buddhist history, the 2514 BE Wat Pai Lom edition, and so on. Yeah, what was he doing in all those places if he wasn't making amulets until 2517 BE? Ask yourself that. And of course, if you have any kind of reason or logic, you will have to come to the same conclusion as myself, that it's impossible that Lumpur never made a Prat Khun Phaen until 1 year before his death at the age of 96 in 2517 BE, 1 year before his death in 2518 BE. Yeah, he had a long life of many decades as a monk, and since 2500 BE at least was already known to be within the Sangha, and known to go around Thailand to help bless amulets. So if he wasn't a great amulet master, what was he doing being invited along with all the other world famous names to assist in the ceremony for since 2500 BE? What was he doing in all of those ceremonies if he didn't make an amulet himself until he was 80, and he never made an edition until 2517? He never made an amulet edition until 2517 BE, according to certain very small-minded people. But he was seen and is recorded and is photographed in blessing ceremonies which range back up to 17 years before that. And I would say case closed. Khun Phaen 15 for now. There'll be more amulet talk about the Khun Phaen 15 and other amulets, early era amulets of Lumpur Tim. But I would still finish this podcast with the words case closed. Lumpur Tim Khun Phaen 15 is real. Khun Phaen Lumpur Tim 2517 may or may not be real. I don't know. And that's why I don't have one. Somebody gives me one for free so I can study it. It's okay. I've never even had one in my hand, and because it's not on the list of allowed amulets. So, case closed. Ajahn Spencer for Amulets TV, Amulet Talk, and the Buddha Magic Project, signing off.